critiquing the quads, but his only way.
Joe and Jorden actually brought back some pretty good footage. Let's go talk to them and take a look at exactly how their ride went.
All right, guys, you're back from the Kanza. What happened?
Well, we successfully finished, so that was obviously a goal, and we're pretty happy about achieving that goal. All in all, it was a great day. The weather was good. It was hot, but it wasn't super sunny. We didn't have hellacious winds, just a little bit of light rain to cool us off. So all in all, pretty good. We had some issues that we had to resolve with some tires, but we were able to do that and finish the ride, so it was great.
Yeah, I don't think you could ask for a better day. I mean, yeah, it was like perfect temperature. I mean, there's really nothing that impacted the ride besides, you know, nature, you know, riding out there on hills and gravel, popping tires, but, you know, no wind, no rain. Can't complain about that, so.
What was the start of the course like? Tell me about the start.
So the start, they start us in downtown Emporia in front of a historical theater. It's a beautiful theater, and there's tons of like energy at the start of the race, as you can imagine, with 1,150 riders all lined up. So it's supposed to be a neutral, slow, rolled out start, escorted by police and then I think later some ATVs once we get to the gravel. But it's anything but controlled. It's hectic, it's fast. We, along with everyone else, was fighting to get good position so you don't have to ride through as many riders. I think in hindsight, maybe we could have backed off a little bit at the start and conserved a little bit of energy and still been just fine. But again, it's all a learning experience, and you're all jacked up and you want to get the best position you possibly can at the start.
And you had something interesting happen to you at the start when you went over the tracks.
Yeah, so we've been riding our bikes that we use quite a bit, but really not on rough trails or anything. Very little like impact on the Glacial Drumlin Trail that we've been training on. But the first time I went over some railroad tracks, maybe, I don't know, a quarter mile into the start, my bars rotated down. So apparently those weren't tightened down as tight as they should be. So and for the next, I'd say 50 miles until rest stop 1, every time I hit something, if I had any weight on the hoods, my bars would rotate and I'd have to like push on the drops really hard to get them to come back to level. So that's something you want to do. You want to test out your gear on some rougher terrain that's going to simulate the conditions that you're riding in. So that's another important thing for future rides.
Yeah. And what about you, Jorden? Do you have any start experience? What happened to you at the start?
Yeah, like for the start, I mean, I was kind of following Joe for the first, I don't know, couple hundred yards, and we're just weaving between people, and I mean, that was kind of crazy. Like everyone's just hauling, like some people are passing you, you're looking behind trying to make sure you're not cutting people off, but then you're trying to get past some of the other riders to, again, put yourself in a good position. And then, yeah, one of the coolest things was, I think when we were like got onto the gravel and like we cut in front of a good amount of people, and we thought we were a little closer to the front than we were. And then you just see this long line of just dust flying in the air, and it was just kind of crazy and fun and fast. It was really fast at the start. So
yeah, there's really no perspective of exactly how many people are in front of you, unless you're 8 feet tall. But when you turn the corner, when you start to turn corners, you can see approximately how many people are up the road or up the trail ahead of you. So.
All right, so what was the most difficult part of the event for you guys? What stood out?
Jordan,
Yeah, I can lead first. So, for me, it was, well, the second half of the ride was pretty brutal and tough. I think the second leg was probably the hardest leg out there to ride, because it was just hill after hill and very long, miserable climbs. And I think that's when it was like mile 88 where like I started, you know, having my troubles and breaking down a little bit. We were just like, I don't know if we're gonna do this, you know. But of course, you get past it, you just think, all right, get me to the next rest stop, and we'll make it. And you just got to find your little pushes, you know, whether that's 20 miles to the next rest stop, or whatever you can find, getting over the hill. So I think the other tough part for me was the last leg. I was having some major knee pains and definitely struggled through that. Like any climbs, I couldn't really sit in my saddle, and so I was out of the saddle, fatiguing the quads, but it was the only way really to make it through. So I definitely got bogged down that fourth leg. So.
And what about you, Joe?
Well, so we had some tire issues before rest stop 1, which was 50 miles into the race. Jorden had a leaky rear tire. We stopped twice to put air in it. We were running tubeless, and we figured that maybe it would seal up, and that really wasn't working. So it wasn't sealing up. So after stopping twice to put air in, we stopped a third time finally and put an inner tube in. And that takes some time. And if any of you have ever run tubeless, you know the bead is tight. And so we were able to successfully get his tube in and get down the trail and continue riding and make it to rest stop 1. And then for me, the most difficult section was that between rest stop 1 and rest stop 2, wasn't feeling very good. Had someone next to me say, hey, dude, you might want to be careful on this downhill because it looks like your front tire is really low. So I'm like, wow, I didn't even realize that. So I got off my bike, and my front tire was leaking for I don't know how long, similar to Jordan's rear tire. And so again with that, we stopped a couple times trying to put air in and really wasn't holding. So then it wasn't until rest stop number 2, which was at 106 miles roughly, that we put a new tube in my front. So we had a little bit of issues with wheels, and I think that really was draining our energy a lot, riding on soft tires, both mentally and physically. But for me, really that was the second half was way better. My tires seemed to be holding air just fine for the second half, and I think there's just becomes this point where once you have more miles behind you than you have in front of you, it just mentally gets easier, and you know that you can make it at least to that rest stop. Once you get to rest stop number 3, you only have 44 miles to go, and at that point there's just nothing but pedaling your bike, just continue to pedal. And that's what we did. We just continued to pedal.
All right, very cool. What was the experience at the end, like when you guys came in close to the finish? Like, were you excited? Tell me a little bit about how that was and how people were at that time, their morale and whatnot.
Yeah, I think most riders that we encountered they're feeling pretty good and feeling excited. And then, of course, they put a pretty nice hill, within a mile or 2 from the finish. So all of a sudden you see that, you're like, oh, come on, like one more. But then when you got to the top of that, I mean, it was pretty. There were people all over the town and kind of cheering you on, and I don't think it mattered if you were in like the top 10 rider or not. People were cheering on anyone that finished. So that was a fun experience. Just like it was pretty emotional that way too. So
yeah, I mean, it's a pretty good feeling to get through that. It's amazing, so they call it the DK 200, but it's actually like 206 miles. And it doesn't sound like a lot, another 6 miles, but it's kind of like tough when you get 200 miles. Like, man, should be done with this thing by now, and you have to go like another 6 miles. But yeah, it was just a phenomenal experience, and everyone there, everyone participating, everyone supporting the ride, all the volunteers were just great. So I mean, I highly recommend it. It's just a phenomenal experience, and you're able to push your limits. But again, everyone out there, their attitude just seemed phenomenal to me. So, and we had great support. So, you know, it was just really nice coming into the rest stops and just being taken care of, and knowing that we were going to be able to just take a little bit of a break, get re-energized, and get back out there.
And having everything there and prepared, and you know, making it pretty snappy of a rest stop, you know, for the most part, it was awesome. I don't think without the support we had, we definitely wouldn't have finished, you know. And but just, you know, very uplifting to see a familiar face and have someone rooting you on and helping you out as much as they can. So that was awesome.
How did the GoPro filming, how did that turn out?
That is tough.
Any problems with that?
Yeah, like, so for me, just where the GoPro was, like when I turned it on, you couldn't really see what you're filming, so you're like, well, I'm hoping I'm getting a good shot, you know, but yeah, I haven't even seen it really. I don't know how good it was or not, so.
Yeah, we'll have to see how it turns out. You'll have to let us know. We'll have to see the footage that we took. I have not seen it yet. I think that there'll definitely be some good footage on there for sure. Wearing it on the helmet and being new to that was an experience, you know, trying to actually feel those buttons. Like, it's not bad, it's easy to do in a controlled situation, but when you're trying to race your bike, even though it is a 200-mile race, you're still like, you're kind of in race mode, so you're not really functioning in the same capacity as if you were just going out to film something. So.
And the other thing is, like, you know, you try to turn it on or off on a downhill because that's usually a little bit easier, but some of those downhills are pretty rocky and dangerous, and it's not like you could really take your hands off the bars. I mean, it would make it a pretty hairy situation, so that was interesting for sure.
Any super funky stuff? Did you see anybody go down, or?
We did. We saw, all in all, we didn't see a lot of craziness, but we did see a female rider go down in front of us on a kind of a technical descent that she was probably just following a little bit close, and didn't see a rock and just, you know, got kicked off to the side. But for the most part, it was pretty good. Again, there were some pretty gnarly downhills where you needed to keep a gap between you and the rider in front of you, because if you were following too close, there was a good chance that you wouldn't be able to react in time to swerve around the object that they swerved around. So
yeah, people think of Kansas as being this flat state, and what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, it's not so flat. I mean, it was like, particularly like as Jorden had mentioned earlier, between rest stop 1 and rest stop 2, that's where the elevation spiked the most, and that's where we had some extended climbs that really pushed the limit. I know myself personally, and I think Jorden feels the same way, is that when we go back, we'll probably gear our bikes down a little bit, so have just a slightly smaller gear in the back so that we can relax and sit and spin at a high cadence up some of those climbs, particularly during that portion of the race.
Yeah.
Second half didn't really seem to be as big of a deal for me. I know Jorden with his knee issues, that was a challenge, but again, a little bit smaller gearing when we go back, I think is a good strategy. So
yeah, where did you guys finish? What was the time?
So our time was like, I believe, like 15:27.
Yeah.
When we came across the line. So it's a long time to be on your bike. You know, we know we can tweak a few things, or we feel we can tweak a few things and go back and achieve our goal of that finishing before the sun goes down. So
I agree. I think it's definitely within reach to do that. So hopefully the conditions would be as good or better. We can definitely do that.
So thanks again for joining us on this journey. We look forward to more journeys and sharing those with you. Don't be afraid to go out there and sign up to do any epic event, whether it's a ride or whatever it might be. Just go out there and challenge yourself.
Yeah. And ask people who have done things before, get a good idea, and any way we can ever help here in Delafield will help for sure.
Till next time.
Till next time. See you later.
See you later, guys.